Can you imagine still doing what you do today 10 years from now? And in fact, I think it's like only 50% of businesses will last 5 years. Well, I'm age 26. I've been in business now for a decade, and I thought I'd jump on and share with you 10 lessons that I have learned from being in business for a decade. So really, I've just turned 26 and I've been feeling very reflective because I started my business age 16 and I'm kind of aware that I'm coming up now for that 10-year anniversary. And I still feel really young, but that feels like really old, that I could essentially say that I could condense a decade into a few days for someone when I coach them. But the reason this has become even more reflective is that I have basically had one of the biggest opportunities of my life and my career, which I can't talk about, and I know it's so annoying when people say that, but it's true, right? I've got this huge opportunity that happened overnight. AKA, I've worked hard for 10 years and it came up for me. I also made a strategic decision at the start of this year to kind of put this in motion. And whilst it was out of my control, I've been able to do the work to lead to it. I can't talk about it for now, but it's a game changer. It's a game changer in my business, it's a game changer pretty much for my life and my wealth and everything moving forward. And it really came from reading that 10x is easier than 2x book, where I realized this specific thing that's happened would be the thing that totally changes everything. And it really rung true for me, my very first lesson of you underestimate what you can do in a year. No, you overestimate what you can do in a year and underestimate what you can do in a decade. And that really never made sense to me until this thing happened. Because I'd always thought, like, I'm so productive, I can get so much done in a year. But really, how much can you truly quantum leap in a year? Even in a coupled years, coupled together, there's so much you can do. But then when you look at your progress over that decade spans, it's absolutely insane what I have managed to achieve, and especially how in my 10th year, this could be the thing that changes it all. And so what it really says to me is that if you take consistent action daily, how that compounds over the space of a decade, your life becomes totally unrecognizable. And I'm very fortunate to be seeing that happen, but it's also not luck. It was so much hard work and things that I put in place for that to actually happen. The second lesson that I feel I had, and this has become especially really apparent, is you choose your hard. Now, what on earth does that mean? And this week it's felt very relevant. When I say choose your hard, I believe that pretty much many options in life are hard. For example, I've recently been waking up later than I usually do, around 7 a.m. And my usual wake up time, or what I've disciplined myself to do, is wake up at 4. But the reason was I was unwell and there was things happening where I started to wake up that little bit later, but what didn't happen was my to-do list didn't shrink. I just had a lot less time to actually complete it. And so by the end of the evening, I usually felt quite anxious, I felt unaccomplished and felt quite stressed. That was hard. Even though it was easier to wake up at 7 a.m, by the end of the day, that was a hard choice and a hard outcome. Then this week, I've started to try and wake up again at 4 a.m. and it's also very hard, but I realized the other option of hard, feeling unaccomplished at the end of the day, is also insanely tough. And so the options are choosing between two hards. Do you do the early wake up and feel more accomplished, or do you not wake up early but don't feel accomplished at the end of the day? And so when I started to relate this to every other single area in life, there's always an option of two hard choices. I'm getting back into the gym. It's hard to go to the gym, but it's also very hard to look at the mirror and not feel your best self, or see yourself in a photo and think, oh God, is that what I look like? It's hard to have uncomfortable conversations with people, but it's also very hard to hold resentment and be passive aggressive towards them. And so life really is a culmination. It's a lot of choices between this hard or that hard. I think if you choose the right one, your life can totally change. 3, your gut is always right. Always. This has been a hard one for me to learn. I have a very strong gut instinct. I believe we all do. I think it's a survival mechanism, but I've ignored it a lot. I've ignored it a lot because I thought it's potentially made things easier. And in the long run, it certainly hasn't, especially when it's came to people and team members and decisions I've made. It's as simple as that. Trust your gut, regardless if it's an opportunity, a person, a team member, just a decision to make in the business. What is it that your gut is truly telling you? It's never ever wrong. 4, prioritizing your health and well-being first is prioritizing every other area in your life by proxy. I've still being served this lesson to this very day. I've just recovered from a chest infection, which totally wiped me out. Now, I still showed up for work. I didn't show up in my best capacity. I wasn't the best mama in the world. And it's because I put my business first. I have worked a lot later recently, woke up very early trying to get things done, put off the gym, put my self-care off, and really just put myself last on the pecking order. And ultimately, it's been damaging to my business and also the other most important thing in my life, being a mum. I wasn't able to show up at my best self. And I think we can often think that stealing an hour here and there to give back to the business or to get more work done, be more productive, is going to push the business forward. But actually, you being in your top optimum performance and health is what is ultimately going to push everything forward. 5, standards are everything. I learned so much of this methodology from Tony Robbins, where he said, if you raise your standards, you change your life. He actually done this at one of his events. It was super interesting. He got everybody to stand up. He said, if you work out 5 times a week, stand up. 3 times, 2 times, no times. He said, you can already tell this person's standard by their body. And you can likely transfer that standard into every single other area of their life. And so raising your standards in any area of your life, it becomes like a bare minimum. It's no longer an intention. It's no longer something that you intend to do. I'll try it. It becomes, this is what I do every single day without fail. This is my standard. And so by changing this, you can completely change the quality of your life and totally take it to the next level. 6, doing the work is the shortcut. I'm a coach. I coach women in business, and I see so often where people just want the overnight success formula. And I've been there too. I've wanted it as well. The thing is, it doesn't exist. Doing the work is the shortcut. Myron Golden talks about all work works. And it's something I tell my clients so often, is they'll tell me the action plan they've got, they'll relate to me and they'll say, do you think it will work? And my answer is always, if you're going to implement that on the scale that you've told me, it's impossible for it not to work. If you're taking consistent daily action, that is the shortcut to get there. Yes, of course, you can condense other people's decades in business into days for yourself and learn and accelerate. But ultimately, the work still has to be done by you, implemented, or your team to achieve the outcome. 7, the quality of your life is determined by how uncomfortable you're willing to get. At one of our events, Stage Your Boss Live, this was actually something many of my students said. I do like a panel with my most successful students, and one of them said, I've never been more uncomfortable since I've met Liv. Another one of them said, Liv, you make me incredibly uncomfortable. Now, that's not a good thing to be saying online. It's not in the way that way. I make people uncomfortable because I push them to better themselves and get outside their comfort zone. It is the only way in order to up-level your life and take your business to the next level is living outside that comfort zone. Have you ever been, I sit here pretty much every day in my life and feel like this stomach churn of, God, this feels like a push, a stretch. This feels uncomfortable. I start to doubt myself, but I know that the reason I feel that way is because I'm outside my comfort zone, which ultimately means I am growing. This is where your growth begins, is outside of your comfort zone. 8, focus on doing one thing well. I launched Stage Your Boss, which is my company where I teach women on how to launch and scale staging businesses 8 years into my journey. So yeah, I had my first business for 8 years before I decided to launch something else. I was given this amazing piece of advice of don't build something else until you've created a $1 million business. And whilst I had that just a few months into my journey, I knew that the timing wasn't right. You can only focus on one thing at a time, and I believe the thief of success is having too many options and too many ideas on the go. So if you are an Enneagram 7 who is multi-passionate with many directions you could go in, hone in, put those blinkers on and just focus on one idea. Number 9, fear disappears when you have gratitude. I've been reading one of my favorite books, 10x is easier than 2x, and they profile really successful people who are high performers. And what they realized was high performers focus on more of what they do have and what they have achieved than what they don't have and what they haven't achieved. They call the focusing on the not having called the gap. You're always looking at the gap of where you're not yet or something you don't have. High performers focus on the gain. They look at how far they've come, the success they've had, and they feel gratitude towards that. By focusing on what you do have and how well you have done, it makes sense because basically you're reinforcing in your mind proof of how capable you are. And so if I look at past experiences and I have that proof that I was able to achieve that thing, I'll be able to go on and breed more of that into my life. It really attracts abundance rather than scarcity, and abundance breeds abundance. And a final note, number 10, you have no idea of how capable you are. If you'd asked me a decade ago where I would be today, I would have no idea that I would run several 7-figure companies, I'd be a mum, I'd live in a different country in my dream home. I honestly would not be able to say that I was capable of all that. Everything that I've been able to do, every time I have expanded my belief in myself and what I'm capable of, and you have no idea until you try it what you are capable of also. These have been my 10 lessons over the last decade in business. I hope these were helpful, and I'll see you on the next video.